My name is Yehudah Webster. I am a community organizer and spiritual activist. And in this session, no, you can take this one. Yep. And folks, we may need to share. In this session, we will be using the spiritual technology of Hevruta to connect with our Ratzon, deep motivations, desires of the soul, and exploring in Hevruta how Hevruta itself, learning in partnership, can support us in cultivating our deep motivations as well as building collective purpose. Now, we'll be using the drawing from the spiritual wisdom and practices of Mussar, which the Hevruta technology will facilitate our learning and our practice. Just by show of hands, how many folks here have engaged with Mussar before? Okay, so we've got about, half the room. I'll just say one word. Mussar is a Jewish spiritual wisdom discipline that's 1,000 years old. It started in the 10th century. And it's all about how do we take out the what they call the duties of the heart and live those as principally as the duties of the limbs in Judaism. How do we actually live with integrity, wholeness, and hopefully holiness, and bridge the gap between our stated values and how we behave and show up in the world, right? We get the values in the Torah to be humble, to be kind, to be generous, and the sages at some point said, well, I'm not kind. I'm not humble. I'm not generous. How do I actually become and live out these values at the highest level? And so today I work for, and I implement the discipline of Mussar in the work of justice to help us be more effective in our work. But before we go deeper into using a drawing from the spiritual wisdom and using the technology of Hevruta to clarify what this wisdom tradition speaks to as Ratzon, or deep motivations, desires of the soul, I want us to get in touch with a desire. So in Hevruta, we're going to, lightning round, we're going to, in 3 minutes, okay? I want you to share with a partner, introduce yourself, maybe find somebody that you don't know, and share a particular desire that you have. And it could be deep, it could be light and trivial, a desire of the clothes that you're wearing, a show that you like, a book that you're reading, the job that you do, any desire, right? And most importantly, I want you to share in Hevruta from where or what did that desire originate from? Where, who, or what did that desire originate from? Y'all with me? Okay, so you're going to share desire. It could be light, it could be deep, but most of all, where or what or whom did that desire originate from? Okay, 3 minutes. Go. Okay, try to split your time equally. It's okay. It's okay. If you know them, it's totally fine. Yep. It was just a suggestion to find somebody you didn't know, but it's all good. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Okay, so thank your partner if you didn't get a chance to do so. And I'd love to hear a couple of reflections, just one or two. If you could just share your name. I think we got another mic. Oops. I think we got another microphone here. Share your name and what's your desire and where did that desire originate from? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Nino. And I just met Rivka over here, and we actually shared the exact same desire to one another and have kind of a similar background as to why, and that's community. Okay. And it's because both of us lost our mothers, and we feel like a sense of like that community or desire for community was lost, so we're rebuilding it in our lives, right?
Wow.
Working on it. Working on it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks so much for that. Yes. Thank you. Anybody else like to share? Please. What's your name, desire, and where did it come from?
Okay, so my name is Judy Fryer, and my greatest desire right now is I've just written a book on the Torah. Wow. And I just finished editing it this weekend after 14 years of research.
Wow.
So I really want to get this out, and I've always been a teacher. I've taught all my life, and when I got into Torah, it just was something that I wanted to share with everybody.
Wow.
And what I found, I was just telling this couple that when I tell people I've written a book, and they say, what's it about? They think it's a novel. Or I say, no, it's about the Bible. If I talk to Christians, they're so interested because they all have read the Old Testament.
Right.
They say, what have you done with it? And I talk to Jews, they go, well, I don't know much about it. I'm not sure if I'm interested. And they walk away, and I find it fascinating. So I want to show everyone the excitement of what Torah is here to teach you how to live your life. And my book, I've taken 3 lessons per parsha in the book of Bereshit, of Genesis, 36 lessons that I've developed, and with all kinds of resources. And I want to share it. I want to get the excitement that I've gotten.
And where did that desire come from, do you think?
I think the desire to teach anything that, whenever I found anything that I found exciting, I want to share it. And so it's the desire to share and teach. It's just been a thing I've always had and felt, and so I've now translated it to the Torah.
Wonderful. Love that. Thank you so much. Yasher Koach. You have to let us know what that's, what's it going to be called?
Well, I've changed the title. It started out, I called it Ancient Wisdom for Modern Times, 36 Lessons from the Book of Genesis.
Okay.
But I found that there were some other books that have similar titles, so I'm
Wow.
Torah for Today, 36 Lessons for this.
Okay. Bless. Wow. Yasher Koach. Love that. Thank y'all. Thank you. Anybody else who had a burning desire that they wanted to share? Sure. Okay. Last one.
Shockingly, my Hevruta and I also had the same.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. I love the synergy.
But I'll share a third one similar to yours, that I have such a deep love of Judaism and Hebrew, and I want to pass that over to my students, you know, almost by any means necessary, snacks, jokes, you know, whatever it takes. But it's, you know, I notice that it's the relationship. They sort of don't care what you're teaching them if they know you love them, you know. So, and where does that come from? I think originally I sort of had a negative motivation, you know. If people want to kill me because I'm Jewish, I better know what that's about. But once I started learning, you know, it really got out of control and snowballed, and you know, I became a Jewish educator, and who knows, I may go on and get ordination. We'll see.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so by no surprise, folks who are here at midnight doing Tikkun Leil have some pretty deep and moving desires. And, you know, the point of that exercise a little bit was to demonstrate that we all have these, what we call Ratzon, this force Ratzon, deep motivation, soul desires, the challenge sometimes can be deciphering where our desires begin and end, and the desires of society also begin and end, or external forces around us. And I think, remind me your name? Deborah, right? I think Deborah kind of got to, I mean, we heard some desires that really came out of, some really challenging experiences. We heard some desires that really came from within around teaching. And then we heard Deborah name a desire that was somewhat informed by an external force of anti-Semitism, of hatred, of fear, right? And so I think there's a lot of noise around us that can actually seep in and inform our desires, from everything to what we watch, what we eat, what we wear, where we sit in a room, all that kind of stuff. And furthermore, there are actually some pretty exploitative forces that have deep interest in limiting our desires to particular domains of consumption, production, profit, comfort. All fine things to want, but to have our deep motivations limited to these domains is oftentimes a distortion that's not serving us, but rather serving some other person's desires for their own profits, for their own gains. And Mussar, this spiritual wisdom that I've been referencing, applied Jewish ethics, has a pathway for how to connect to and clarify what it is that we actually want. It teaches us that we should, first of all, get some space from that noise, some rest and peace. And our tradition offers us Shabbat, the Chagim, right? The time that we have right now, as a way to quiet the noise from the outside, right? To kind of drop in and connect to what it is that we actually want. It teaches us that we can cultivate what we want, deepen it through partnership, through relationship with each other and or Hashem, and that ultimately we can align our desires for good, for building a better world, for justice through prayer itself. Now, unlike other faith traditions, in Judaism, we actually get to have wants. Some other faith traditions kind of look down on you for having desires. But in Judaism, you get to have desires, right? And we get to bring them into prayer, understanding that we don't always get what we want per se, but we at least get to ask for it, right? And that by doing so, in alignment with Hashem, we can ensure that our desires are for goodness, right, in the world. If you take a look at your handouts, and folks may need to share, or I just want to point out a couple things before we get into some good Hevruta. You'll find there some etymology for this word Ratzon. Now, the word Ratzon is related, a little kind of pseudo-etymology going on here. It's certainly related to the word Ratzon, want, somewhat pseudo-related to the word Ratz, run. And so we can think of our Ratzon, our deep motivations, as that which we run towards, if you will. Now, you'll see here this text from Rabbi Shlomo Volbe. He was one of the preeminent Mussar teachers of the 20th century. And he gives us a sense of the quality of this force, Ratzon. He says, be drawn after your creator just like iron is drawn to a magnet. Right? So the force of Ratzon is like I don't know if you ever played with magnets, but you hold them apart, you bring them close enough together. Okay, boom. Okay, show us, right? A live demonstration. Okay, so at a certain point, those magnets can't resist. Bam, right? They come together, right, as you play with that. Right, I love that, right? And so there's something about proximity. Once you get close enough with the thing that you desire, is what this source is showing us, we can't resist it. It's magnetic, if you will. Now, we get an example here from Leviticus Rabbah right below that. And this is a midrash, and I like to think of midrashim as rabbinic fan fiction, if you will. And we have here that King David, we know that King David from the Psalms, that he really loved Hashem, right? And so the rabbis are giving us an example of how this force of Ratzon really works. It says here that King David said, "Master of the universe, each day I thought and said to myself, I want to go here or there, but my legs would always bring me to the synagogue or the study hall." So King David said, "I wanted to go to the market and get some, I don't know what you got back then, get some dates or something." And he would, somehow autopilot to the synagogue or study hall, right? Because his love for Hashem is so great. So what is this really telling us? What is this teaching us? I'm going to give it over to you in short, that our Ratzon, this force, is stronger than our intellect, what we consciously think we want. It operates below the surface of our consciousness, right? Such that, for myself, actually, I oftentimes experience it in the opposite way. We see here a positive example. King David autopilots to the synagogue, right, or is drawn to the synagogue, even though he thought he wanted to go to the market. But I oftentimes experience it in the opposite, more negatively, right? I'll say to myself, I want to go to bed at a reasonable hour of 10 p.m., and then it's 2 a.m. and I'm still scrolling or binging Netflix or what have you. What happened, right? You had two separate desires. You said you wanted to go to sleep, but you're over here doing something else. Or actually, more commonly for me right now, I'll close my laptop, work email, and then I'll pick up my phone and immediately open the email app, right? Like, what happened there, right? I have two competing desires, and what it's showing here is that the Ratzon is actually stronger, right? You'll find some people will find themselves shopping with no particular need, right? Or more insidiously, hating a group of people without even understanding why. And the challenge is, going back to those external forces that we spoke about before that really can influence our desires, is that they oftentimes, these external forces, corporations, they target the realm of the subconscious, which is where the Ratzon lives, right? Beneath the surface of our consciousness. So I want to invite you now into an extended Hevruta. And for about 15, 18 or so minutes, I want to invite you to explore some of these discussion questions that you'll find on your handout. First of all, what are you pulled towards like iron to a magnet? Are there places it carries you that you wish weren't so magnetic? What external forces impact that? And then on the next page, I want to invite you to engage in a longer Hevruta study that makes visible how partnership with each other and or Hashem can help us clarify our wants. It's a container, if you will, right, that creates ability for us to, even in disagreement, understand what we want better. Actually, I have an example from today. My wife, she asked me to help her choose what she was going to wear. And she told me afterwards that she knew she would disagree, but just the fact of me giving my opinion helped her understand what she actually wanted to wear, right? So it's in relationship that we actually can understand and deepen our desires, right? Not just through disagreement, but just having that container can be helpful. So the two sources that we have is appropriately from Ruth, as it is Shavuot, and this is the book that we read on Shavuot. And we also have a selection from Psalms. Okay, so you have some reflection questions with each. Let's dive into these texts in Hevruta, learn how using Hevruta, how learning in part or reflecting in partnership can actually help us deepen our desires, our deep motivations, desires of the soul. Any questions?
So through page 3, pause at page 4?
Yes, pause at page 4. You got it. Thank y'all. Okay, let's get in this. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Hope you had good discussions and want to open up space for some collective conversation. And so the question I want to put to you is, based off of the texts and your discussions, what do you see the role of Hevruta, a relationship, in helping us discover, clarify, deepen our Ratzon, those soul desires? What's coming up for you? And then continue to share your name and please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rifki. It's okay. And I actually felt a sense of community just now, and it was really, really special. And yeah, that really did feel something for me. And yeah, like I was saying, I don't want to Google something. It's like, it's like if I want a recommendation, I don't want to look at reviews online. I want to talk to a person. You know, this is how it was like years before. Like, you know, I don't, you know, there's something about the connection, or like oh yeah, I went to this doctor, and it's not like, oh yeah, this doctor's office is, I don't know, 5 stars. You know what I mean? It's just like you see. There's something in the transmission, like the body language, the whatever it is. Yeah, it's just yeah, human connection. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rifki. Yes. Anybody else feeling called to share what came up for you in your conversations? What's the role of relationship, Hevruta, in connecting to your desires? Yes, please.
That if somebody else is willing to reveal to you things that they're not necessarily proud of, it makes it easier for you to reveal things to another.
Thank you. Wow, beautiful.
And this is Carolyn, everybody.
Carolyn, yes, pleasure. Chag Sameach, please.
That just reminded me of the vulnerability of being vulnerable. My name is Michelle. And somebody in our group even was talking about the idea of when we are probed or we are asked good questions, it helps us then to, and I think it's mutual in many ways, but to think deeper, to go further, to expand the possibilities, so that we are drawing on a bigger canvas, in a sense. That's what Hevruta can do.
Sure.
Thanks. You can tell we're husband and wife. I'm Mark.
Hi, Mark.
In another setting, I'm part of a group of men who have conversations like this. And what has come out of those conversations is the idea that there is a wisdom among people who, which only reveals itself when those people are collaborating. It's not just what you know, but it's what we know. As one of my folks in that group says, it's not about me, it's about we. And the idea is not that we can even fabricate or create that wisdom. What we have to do is allow that wisdom to awaken, because it's already there. It's already here in this room. Everything that Yehudah is talking about is already, the wisdom related to it is already here in the room. It's just the process and the structure that allows it to become awakened, but it has to be awakened through wisdom, awakened through collaboration. And it's really good if that collaboration is done not with ego, but with humility. And I'm delighted to be part of a group right now that's doing that very work.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Thank you for that. Thank you. Anybody else want to share what struck you in your Hevruta study? Yes, okay. Last.
I'm Deborah, and we didn't exactly say these words, but it's like it's really powerful to be witnessed. And that it helps me hear what I'm saying, you know, that maybe I don't hear it without being able to say it out loud and have somebody witness it.
The container. Yes. It goes back to Michelle's about, I think, vulnerability as well, and that collaboration that Mark's speaking to. And last comment here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Mo. First, I wanted to make a comment. Mark, is that your name? You were making me think of what we say in our tradition, that when two people learn together, God's presence dwells between them, and it's that presence that maybe is the source of that wisdom. But I was thinking also that one thing Hevruta does for me, speaking of ego, reminds me that even though I might think, I'm so unique and I have such, personal experiences, how could anyone understand me? And then I realized that, no, it's not so special. That actually people are going through things very similar to me and have thoughts of my own. So it's nice to remind myself that I'm not so important, but that I can share in my thoughts and my feelings with others.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So I want to take what everyone has shared, and I think Mark really spoke to it nicely, that the wisdom is already here, and I'm just going to repackage all the wisdom that you shared, because it all really connects back to some of the key points that I want you to come away with from this, is that, number one, we see that, at least in the King David text, that rest is so important to connecting to our desires, right? And he's speaking out his desires in the late watches of the night, right, as he's resting his head. And so we need that space again, right? But then we can actually clarify and deepen our motivations in partnership. I think, what was your name again? Mo. I think Mo said it nicely, even with Hashem, right? Like in Hevruta, Hashem is there, and David steps into a Hevruta partnership with Hashem through prayer, through the psalm, and is able to deepen his motivations there, but also with each other, going back to that container that Deborah was talking about, the vulnerability that we see with Naomi and Ruth that comes out right from that, and that helps to actually clarify what it is that she wanted and deepen such that she made not just a commitment to Naomi, but also to the Jewish people, right? And so, and then just really weaving what Mark brought and Mo brought and some others around that when we share our desires with others, as we move from that place of connection, from a place of rest, that we actually start to build collective purpose. Because you share your desires, say, aha, and we saw that here nicely with, is it Rivki? Yeah, we saw that here nicely with the two of you, right? When you hear somebody else's desire, you say, aha, I actually have a similar desire too. Who knew? And you move from a place of isolation to a place of collaboration. And now we can actually move together and build the world that we want to be a part of, right? And so this process is something that we can continuously do. Go back to that place of rest and quiet, connect to our Ratzon, and start to share it over and over again in greater and greater detail each and every time, such that it becomes so tactile that it can actually help us bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be, or at least speak about being. And I think that this is such an important piece around building a better world. I think oftentimes we're so clear about what we're against, and we're not so good at articulating what it is that we're trying to build. And I think it's an important muscle that we have to exercise, particularly in these times, right? And I think of particularly Dr. King, who I imagine he had many chevrutas. And he, before sharing his dream with the world, he would have shared it in chevruta with his trusted partners that would have helped him clarify and deepen his desire, right? And move that. Before you knew it, it ignited similar desires in others. And here we live in a world far more integrated than the one that Dr. King was born into, right? So with that, I want to invite us into practice around this. Mussar is a practice-based discipline, and it works not just through discussion, yes, but also by doing the practice itself, right? And so we see that in all these examples of people manifesting their desires, that they first speak it out loud is an important piece of the story, right? Whether it's brought it from within to without, whether it's writing or sharing and partnership. So if you look on page 4, you'll see this head-heart activity. And we're going to close with this. And so in Hevruta, so you do have to find yourselves in pairs for this. And this is where the vulnerability, as Michelle was speaking to, this is where it really comes out. So you find yourself with a pair. And the person with shorter hair will ask the person with longer hair, what do you want? And you'll have up to a minute to respond. And think about, what do you want for yourself, but also for your community, perhaps even for all of society. And if you run out of things to say in 30 seconds, give yourself the full minute. The person who's asking can keep time on your watch, or if you use your cell phone. I'll try, but you all start at different times. But I'll try, But if the asker, you could also, you're holding the container, okay? The person asking, you're holding the container, right? You're allowing your chevrutah to drop into this place of vulnerability. What do you want? You'll get to answer. And then, when the minute is up, you'll ask again, what do you want? You get another minute. And then finally, again, a third time, what do you want? You may find that over the 3 times that you're asked, that you'll really deepen and clarify what it is that your soul is desiring. And then, you want to take a moment for reflection before switching. Sound good, y'all? Okay, so we'll close here with this head, heart, and we start practice. Bless. Any questions? Sound good? Okay, find a partner. Do need to be in pairs. One minute per. 3 times. And it's important that you pause and get asked again. When the timer goes off, ask again, what do you want? You might find yourself chuckling at first, laughing a little bit, but it's okay. Let yourself drop in. So we're coming down to the end of our time here together. I just want to hear from maybe one person. What did it feel like to be asked 3 times? To have that container to respond to that question 3 times. What do you want? Yes, please.
I have to say, at first I snickered a little bit and felt that the continual asking would be funny. Uh-huh. And I found that it was actually very gratifying. Because I think, at least for me, when I'm answering a question and speaking with someone, a Hevruta, sometimes I can feel that I'm going on and I'm only in my own head, even though someone is carefully listening. Mm-hmm. And there is that divine feeling between 2 people. So to have the question asked again after a pause was actually very helpful for me and very grounding. And I noticed that different things came up as I was asked the same question a few times. So then I said, don't laugh at these activities. I said that to myself. So thank you for bringing that. Yes,
you're welcome. Love that. And we do find that actually people don't say the same thing every time, but actually new things come up, and you'll find yourself maybe, even if you were coming around the same idea, kind of crystallizing it a little bit more. And that was just 3 minutes. Imagine if you did this, 2 minutes each time, 3 minutes each question, right? How deep it. I realized I have a lot of what I want. Oh, bless. Baruch Hashem. Love that. It's a lot of gratitude there, too. Wow. So thank y'all for participating in this deepening of Ratzon. And my invitation is to continue to use Hevruta to clarify, cultivate, deepen this soul desire that can really move us towards how we want to build a better world. Thank y'all. Chag Sameach.